Hey, welcome back, everyone. As a veteran or first responder, every day you step into a world that's overflowing with problems. People don't call for us expecting someone to arrive who throws up their hands and complains more about the situation. You're the one who shows up to bring order to most likely their chaos. In essence, you bring a solution to the mess. But take a step back for a second and look at what happens within our organizations. Inside those walls, something weird happens to a lot of us. Those same men and women who run toward a gunfight or move into a burning building get completely derailed by a shift change, a new policy memo, or a bad promotion list. We're quick to point out a broken system. Yet instead of grabbing a proverbial wrench, we prefer to become a microphone. We like to be the noisemakers. We'd rather complain about command staff, the budget, the lack of equipment, or the internal politics. Now, you might think that you making a lot of noise is helping address the issue, but you're doing something much worse. You're letting yourself become part of the continued decay. Many of us find it easier being critics instead of fixers. So whether it's in 10 months or 10 years, your transition is coming down the line. And if the habit you default to every day is just identifying organizational problems and then bitching about them, that SOP is going to harm you more than it'll benefit you. Because nobody in any situation, regardless if they're military, first responder, or civilians, wants another critic. The world is already drowning in critics. Your next employer wants the person who sees what's broken, grabs a tool, and builds a solution, preferably with what you have available to you. Right now, it's time to look at how you operate, because the standard you set today is the leverage you'll rely on when you're looking for what comes next. As a first responder, control isn't optional. It's how you do your job. But when it comes to buying or refinancing a home, most lenders don't get your world. Police Mortgage does. They specialize in working with first responders, walking you through the process, breaking down your options, and helping you lock in competitive rates without the runaround. Take control of your financial future with people who have your back. Visit policemortgage.com or call 312-499-8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. Let's take a closer look at how this generally plays out. Say there's a new organizational policy, a change to the promotional process, or gear that's backed up in orders again. Immediately, the environment fills up with cynicism. We start competing over who can dissect the bad news with the sharpest knife. And admit it. In that moment, it feels good to complain, right? There's a camaraderie that comes with being part of the vocal resistance. But let's strip away the emotion. When you join the chorus of complaints without offering a viable path forward, you aren't fighting the bad policy. You're feeding it. You're taking a situation that's already inefficient or broken and adding another layer of dead weight and toxic energy to it, in addition to helping lower morale. You and your coworkers simply become a noise generator. You become the exact thing you probably hate, an obstacle in the way of getting the job done. And every time you engage in that performance, you're training your response. But instead of building the muscle of a problem solver, you're building the muscle of a divisive spectator. You're conditioning yourself to point fingers rather than grabbing the steering wheel. Now, bring that habit to the verge of your transition. One day, maybe sooner than you expect, you're going to walk out the gate the last time. You're going to step into a civilian company or start your own business. And guess what? The civilian world is filled with the same amount, if not more, of problems, broken systems, budget cuts, and bosses who make decisions that might not seem to make sense on paper. So then if the muscle that you're building during your time in uniform is the critic muscle, you'll instinctively do what you've always done. You'll sit in the back and you'll start complaining. But you know what happens to a civilian employee who acts like that? You'll basically be committing career suicide. You'll get labeled as toxic, unpromotable. Oh, wait, that sounds familiar to these careers also. And then when layoffs come, yours will be the first name crossed off the roster. Not because you lack talent or operational skill, but because you were a net negative on the culture of the organization. You brought problems to the table, but you never brought answers. So how do you change your trajectory today? You lead up the chain of command, which means you stop expecting command staff to magically fix every operational pain point, because they're likely managing macro-level situations you don't necessarily see from your position. If you identify a gap in your daily operations, your job isn't to vent about it. Your job is to try and engineer a fix. First, you have to realize that the people who created the current system probably didn't do it out of malice. They did it based on the limited information or resources they had at the time. Second, define your sphere of influence. What can you fix right now with the tools, time, and personnel currently available to you? If the issue is within your lane, fix it without needing a parade or an attaboy. Third, if the fix requires approval from higher up, do the legwork before you open your mouth. Don't walk into a supervisor's office and just point out what's broken. Instead, come with a possible solution or solutions. Maybe you identify something that requires zero extra budget, and then you ask if you can give your solution a try. Oh, and think what's best for the organization, not just what's best for you. But seriously, think about the difference in those two approaches. In the first, you just dumped another problem onto your boss's desk. You made their day harder. Whereas in the second scenario, you offer a potential solution to their problem, and you maybe eliminated a point of frustration for you and your team. That's how a leader operates. That's how you build a reputation that makes you indispensable, both inside your current organization and in whatever civilian objective you pursue tomorrow. Stop being the person who adds fuel to the fire. Start being the person who brings the extinguisher. However, before we go any further, as a regular reminder, if you want more on this topic, as well as additional transition planning and preparation, I put out a weekly newsletter. Go check out the link in the show notes to sign up, and I know you'll get more beneficial information. On the other hand, what happens if you don't want to make this shift in how you operate? Say you keep playing the role of the loud critic, and you keep adding to the noise, encouraging every time someone is tearing down the organization or leadership. You're basically setting a trap for your future self. When your transition arrives and you step into civilian life, your past rank, your commendations, and your years of service become historical data. They might land you an interview, but they'll definitely not ensure your job. And they likely won't earn you the respect in the corporate world that you think they will. What will define your survival in that new world is the operational mindset you build while you're still in uniform. If you spent your time in service conditioning yourself to be a professional critic, the person who highlights friction instead of solving it, that behavior will immediately show up in your civilian career. You might think you can, but you won't be able to hide it. It will leak out. It'll be in your tone of voice, in the way you respond to inefficient company operations, and in how you interact with managers and coworkers. And that's how you become unemployable, because you'll radiate toxic energy into an ecosystem that rewards people who deliver results, not complaints. In the private sector, every employee is a line item on a profit and loss statement. You're either adding value or you're an operational cost. If you're the person who sees a problem and spreads discontent across the team, you're a liability. And liabilities get liquidated. And you likely won't have a union or a bargaining group to protect you or your job. So your change needs to be reframing how you view organizational problems that you encounter today. Stop looking at a bad policy, a broken piece of gear, or a scheduling conflict as some insult from command staff, and start looking at deficiencies within your unit as training scenarios for your future career. When the organization rolls out a new system, which might seem to be useless, don't start a gripe session. Treat it like an equation that needs a solution. Ask yourself, why did leadership put this in place? What gap are they trying to close? Where is the breakdown happening? And then, how can I come up with a solution with options using the resources we have right now? When you start thinking like that, you move from a state of passive disengagement to a state of involved ownership. You actually might stop feeling like a victim of a bad agency or a broken system and start operating like a problem solver who looks beyond the chaos and the noise. Now, for those of you sitting in the back, the ones with your arms crossed, the ones with the pissed off looks on your faces, this isn't about just being a yes man or pretending everything in your agency is perfect. It's about building the skill set that civilian organizations are always looking for. Your organization, as well as any civilian company, have no shortage of people who can spot problems. There are endless meetings dedicated to identifying what's wrong with the product, the culture, or the budget. What they're starved for is the person who can detect a problem, stay impartial, identify the core issue, draft a plan of attack, and lead people to a solution without needing your handheld. So if you want to transition with power, if you want to move into a civilian market prolific at fixing problems instead of a disgruntled veteran or first responder who can't adapt, you have to build that operational mindset today. When it comes to sunglasses, first responders and military members definitely don't baby them. They get dropped, thrown in a utility pocket, or tossed in gear bags. Frontline Optics was created for that reality. You get premium eye protection without paying designer brand prices for something that won't survive your lifestyle. From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective coatings and water repellent finish. And here's where Frontline Optics separates themselves from the pack. When life happens and your glasses break, they offer a no questions asked replacement program, even for prescription lenses. On top of that, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every purchase goes to support the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping families of those who gave everything. So if you're looking for sunglasses that look good and come from a company that actually understands the job, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines. As a veteran or first responder, you've earned every bit of pride and respect that comes with wearing the uniform. Nobody can take that history away from you. But that uniform was never meant to be a permanent skin. It's just equipment. It's just a tool issued to you for a specific period of your life to carry out a specific mission. Eventually, every locker gets cleared out. And when that final shift ends, the only thing that walks out the door with you, the only asset that actually belongs to you, is the internal code you choose to live by every single day. Is it a code that makes you an asset or a liability, both today and tomorrow? When you look back on your time in service, sitting on the other side of your transition, what will remain is the value of who you became while you were operating in the middle of it. You get to decide today. Are you the person who leaves behind a trail of complaints, or are you the person who leaves behind a wake of solutions? Are you letting the friction of the system wear you down, or are you using that friction to sharpen your edge? The standard you hold today, especially when the organization is frustrating and when it would be so easy to just join the chorus of critics, is the standard that will define your next objective. Choose the one who builds instead of helping tear down. I appreciate you staying until the end. Staying all the way through helps the engagement ratings. As always, send me your comments. Be honest. Tell me what you like. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I can't make changes to anything in these episodes unless you tell me what you need. Also, I ask that you share the podcast with anyone who you think would benefit and enjoy it. And if you're not already, please follow the podcast wherever you're getting this episode. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.